if we're not happy with who we are, and funny enough, I just came off of a journey.
Yeah.
Those of you that follow me on socials might have seen that I took a year off weave.
Yeah.
So this is my first
I was
wig.
literally going to ask that, but that's
Yeah.
perfect. You already said it. Keep going, keep going.
Yeah, when you got two presenters on the couch. This is my first wig in a year, and I had to take a journey of self-love.
Yeah.
I discovered that every time I wanted to dress up, every time I wanted to go on date night, every time I wanted to just be presentable, my natural hair wasn't good enough.
Would you say it wasn't good enough because you had been told it's not good enough, or your mind just felt that it wasn't good enough?
I think a bit of both.
Yeah?
When you tell somebody a lie so much, they believe it's the truth. And we've been fed so many lies as black women, as black people in general, about who we are, and we're queens and kings. And, you know, society has conditioned us in such a way to reduce ourselves. So in so doing, we then feel like our original self is less than, or it's not good enough. It's such a weird paradox.
Do you know what? You're talking like a lot of sense. Like even now, like I'm having different strands of conversations that I want to have. So I'm going to come back to that. I want to talk about that weave journey, because obviously at the time of filming this, you released that video a couple of days ago.
Yeah.
So talk to me about what it was going through that year, and why now you've decided, okay, cool, I want to start.
Okay, so I strongly believe the Holy Spirit is a teacher. There's a scripture, I can't remember it off the top of my head. It teaches you all things, including how you feel about yourself and self-love. So when I realized that, okay, anytime I wanted to go out, I'd reach for my wigs, especially my blonde. Like, I had different personalities. And I know a lot of black women can relate to this.
DMX challenge right now. So many
you have
wigs,
different personalities with your different levels of your wigs.
Yeah.
And for me, it was the whiter they got,
Yeah.
the more of a baddie I felt like.
Damn. So the whiter the wigs that you got, you felt more like a baddie?
Yeah.
Okay, elaborate.
The more beautiful I felt, the more stunning, the more I felt like
Eurocentric.
Yes, like I can take on. I'm so attractive right now. So for me, that was. I don't know about everyone else's like journey with that, but that was my issue that I identified. Or I believe the Holy Spirit identified for me. So I said, okay, let me strip back completely. Can I do a year without weave? And I'd seen other bloggers like Chiaka Valentina who completely, she doesn't even ever wear weave at all. So I said, okay, let's see how long I can last. So I packed up all my wigs and put it on the top of my wardrobe where I can't reach, and said, okay, cool, I'm going to do this, and I'm going to see what I can do with my hair. Let me actually figure out the versatility of my hair on its own. And that's another thing about the hair not being enough. You know, I said, okay, cool, I've got this texture, I've got this length. Let's see what we can do with it. So even to like corporate events, I learned how to wrap my hair. So I have like loads of different hairstyles that I can do now that suit different environments. Because I think the excuse we make sometimes is it's not neat enough for corporate environments. But trust me, there's hairstyles that you can do that will fit in those environments if you really, truly, you want to. So I think sometimes we say, oh, it's others. We other our experiences.
And we push our issues, or we almost project our issues on someone else.
That's where the issues start from, but they can stop with us.
Yeah.
You know, and what we radiate out matters so much. I see women in corporate spaces with afros out. It's possible.
Yeah. And how do you feel now? Like, obviously, you've gone through that year. You're starting to wear wigs again, weaves, and etc. In terms of Mo Chunks of today, how do you feel in terms of
So one thing I really wanted to highlight in that video that I did was that 80-20 rule.
Yeah.
So even now, coming back into the weave world, I call it
the weave world.
The weave world. I want it to be 80% me and 20% extensions. So even in my year off of wigs and weave, like I did dreads. So I went for like Afrocentric kind of hairstyle. So I did cornrows, and even with that, maybe I did that twice in the year. And the rest of the year was just my natural hair. So even now, I might have this for like 3 weeks, and I'm back to
change again.
You get it? Like I don't want this to be my default. If that makes sense. I don't want to have a panic if I don't have time to do my cornrows to put my wig on. And a lot of black girls have that panic.
Yeah. They feel like they need to, or like it's just something they must do in order to go into the world. And that brings me on to a really good conversation as well. So obviously, like now, you're doing YouTube full time, like you're an actual freelancer, and there's always these conversations about, 9 to 5s versus entrepreneurs and like creative content. So in terms of going into those spaces as somebody who have you previously worked in the corporate world before?
I didn't work corporate, but I worked in healthcare.
Okay, cool.
So because I wanted to go into medicine,
Yeah.
I'm not sure how much we talked about this earlier, but because I wanted to go into medicine, I did work experience in the hospital.
Okay.
So when I came back from uni, I just took that up again.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
And in terms of like being in that space as well, did you ever feel a pressure? I know you mentioned it earlier, like your hair must be in a certain way, or you must be able to present yourself because they're gonna think, oh, as a black woman, X, Y, and Z.
I think maybe because healthcare isn't that corporate, and my job didn't require me to wear like a suit.
Okay, fair enough.
Do you get it? So
Yeah.
like I could, because I worked for an agency, I could just go into a workspace wearing jeans. In hospitals you have to dress a bit more and wear the uniform.
Okay, cool.
But I think people that work in like banks, for example, they feel it a bit more, because I do have conversations with it. I feel like it's easy for me to say as someone who's a freelancer now and I work for myself, and someone that worked in healthcare, but someone that works in a corporate field, that conversation might be a bit different. They might have had comments, because I remember in school, there was one time we had an exam in the morning, and I just didn't have time to pack my hair. I just didn't have time to put it in a bun or whatever, so I just left it. It was a big afro, and I walked into the exam hall, and the lady told me to tie it up. That it's distracting.
Seriously?
Yeah.
But what's distracting
So
about
that was in
an
West
afro,
Sussex.
though?
So
Yeah, okay, cool, Sussex.
I'm guessing, or I can imagine, that those that work in corporate environments might have had similar comments, because we are a lot.
And there's so many different ways you can style it as well.
We carry so much as black people. Everything about us is just so unique and very captivating. But we're also not a show.
I know exactly what you're saying.
We're not a spectacle like in a zoo. We're not that. So the more I think we embrace who we are, the more the world will be forced to see it as normal.
100%.
Yeah.
100%. And like touching back on the freelance thing as well, obviously like now you are working for yourself, you don't have a 9 to 5. How have you found that transition from going to uni to being full-time? I have to work for my money, I have to find a way to make a living, because it's something that a lot of people want to do, but not everyone is bold enough to make that step. Talk to me about how you made that step and how you're finding it.
It was interesting.
Yeah.
So after university, I graduated with first class from.
Come on.
Thank you.
That.
From the Uni of Leicester, in medical physiology, and the next step my parents were expecting was medicine. And so, in fact, I had that in mind as well. But I realized that every decision I'd made up until that point had been self. So I said, okay, I got to a stage now where I got to a place where I had a relationship with God, and God was starting to be very important in my decision making. So I prayed and I asked God, do you want me to study medicine? Show me something, like let me see a sign, or let there be a peace. And there was no rest about it. There was just, I didn't hear from God. And I always say to people, the absence of a no is not the presence of a yes.
The absence of a no
is not the presence of a yes.
Okay, cool.
So sometimes we pray to God and say, okay, if this is
for me, give me a sign.
If this is for me, give me a sign. The sign doesn't come, and you go anyway. So just because God hasn't outrightly said, no, don't go down this path, or okay, let's say it like this. If I meant to go to London Bridge today, show me a white bird. If I'm not meant to go, show me a blue bird.
Yeah.
You don't see a blue bird. You don't see a white bird either.
But you feel like it might be an indication that,
because of what's already in your heart. And we confuse what God wants to do with our own will sometimes. But that's a different conversation. But anyway, I didn't have peace about medicine. God was saying that he wants to do something with me that's much bigger. This media thing, go and do it. He gave me ideas upon ideas about how to expand the channel. All the ideas for MCTV came when I was in university, and I thought, you know what, I'm going to pursue this. I'd seen a guy on Twitter, his name is Man Like Mike, he's actually a good friend of mine now. Yeah. I call him man. His name is Man Like Mike. His name is Mike.
That's branding, because it's annoying, because like, my
Yeah.
Twitter is official ORÉ, and
Yeah.
it makes me cringe when people say, "Oh, official ORÉ." I'm like, that's not my name.
Yeah. So Man Like Mike, I saw a video he did, saw some cool graphics. This was even before he started to tag himself as a graphics designer.
Yeah.
And God was saying, "That's your guy.
Mm.
Go ask him to help you with your rebrand." And he did some brilliant, as in, I gave him little to no guidance, and he did brilliant work for MTTV. The branding was just through the roof, and that's how a lot of people started to gravitate towards the channel. So going into that now, I was still working part-time at my job in the agency, the healthcare agency, and going close to the end of that journey, I could physically feel it. I could feel it in my spirit. In fact, my last day of work, hadn't handed in a notice, but God was saying this was your last time here.
Yeah.
And I knew, and I walked around so sad that day. I was laughing with people, joking, they were like,
But
I'm
they
not
didn't
gonna
know
see,
what was about
yeah,
to
like,
come.
I'm not
Yeah.
going to see you again. And I didn't want to let go of the safety net
Yeah.
of having a salary, being paid a certain amount based on how much you work. I didn't want to let go of that safety net, but I remember having a conversation with my brother, and I said, okay, like I can hear God saying it's time to start my business, my media business. And at the time, had I started doing, no, I hadn't. I was doing little jobs for people here and there with my camera. I was helping a lady in my church with like her singing channel and that
And
kind of stuff.
was this paid at the time?
No,
or
it wasn't
yeah?
paid.
Just freelance.
Just was doing free work for
Free work,
people. And I remember going on holiday, and I said, okay, right, this holiday I really want to hear from God. I was actually on a 3-day fast that I broke off a bit early because the heat was too much.
Where did you go?
Was it Portugal?
Okay, all right.
And went with my girl Ada, and so on the last day, I was like, God, you still haven't spoken. Like, why did I come out here for nothing? And then on just before I got on the flight, I downloaded a preaching by Michael Todd. I love him.
Yeah, amazing preacher.
Yeah, he's an amazing. He's for this generation. What was the preaching about? It was about Elijah and the woman with the jar of oil. And just to paraphrase or just briefly tell that story, a woman had lost her husband, and she goes to Elijah, my husband is gone, he's one of your priests, like, help me out. So Elijah was, she was expecting Elijah to give her money or something just to help her survive. And he was like, oh, but what do you have? And she said nothing but a jar of oil. And he said, okay, go into your house, go into your neighbors, collect containers and begin to pour. Close the door and begin to pour. Now, a miracle happened. She was pouring the oil and it didn't stop flowing. It didn't stop flowing until she got to the last jar. So there's many layers to that story. There's the layer of as much as your faith takes you, meaning how many containers you actually collected was how much oil was going to flow. But the one that struck me the most was when he asked her, what do you have? And in that moment, I heard God saying to me, Mo, what do you have? And lo and behold, I had my little 700D with my 50mm lens that I used for my channel. And God was saying, you can make money from this. And that's how I started my business, Anu Media Productions. And
so how have you found, obviously, like, so you left the job?
Yeah.
Because I know a lot of people, like, trying to get into the YouTube space, trying to get into that creative space, but they're afraid to make the leap that you've made, and like maybe they don't have the conviction and the faith that you have. So how have you, because I think one of the conversations that people always worry about is, how am I going to live? Because not everyone is fortunate to live with their parents still, and like some people have to pay rent and they've got this to pay. So how have you found, okay, cool, I'm working for myself, I've set up my business. How have you found, okay, now I actually need to make a living out of this, and I need to actually financially be stable, not be in a stage where it's almost an inconvenience? Because I think that's that was a worry that I had when I made that step.
Comfort kept me small. Comfort really kept me small. Staying in my parents' house, there wasn't that drive to do something. There wasn't that drive to turn this into something sustainable.
So wait, you
I've moved out now.
Okay, cool.
I've moved out 3-4 months ago. Jeez. And that was a scary process as well.
Can I just ask, I always interrupt in the conversation, I'm just intrigued. How did you find that process? Because like, going back to being Europe and Nigerian, there's a lot of like, you stay in this house till you marry, you know, you need to be at a certain age.
Again, this is what I mean about, I'm quite fortunate to have a mother that allows me to be me. Although she would rather I was a doctor. because of the pressures she faced as a young woman,
She understands.
not being allowed to do what she really wanted to do in her heart of
Yeah.
hearts. When I said I was ready to move out, she said go.
Yeah.
She didn't. And even my dad, surprised. I think when you yourself are certain about your calling, everything else will bend. It might take some longer than others, but eventually they will bend. So it might have taken maybe my mom a bit longer than my dad, but eventually she got there. And maybe there's still that bit in her heart that's not completely and fully like satisfied.
Yeah.
But she has that peace, and that's why she's able to let me go. Moving out was definitely scary. I was in overdrafts in my account.
Listen.
I started my business. Business was going well. Come Christmas time now, and clients were not paying on time. It's like everybody's buying Christmas presents. Just because you not a freelancer doesn't mean, I don't know what maybe that word free needs to come out of freelancer.
Yeah. Listen.
Because I have bills to pay as well.
Honestly.
And it was just a blur. Once you go into your overdraft, it just carries on and on and on. So I was in my overdraft, and God said, it's time for you to get your office space. I was like, cool. So I went out and found it, and even that was favor, but just so I don't elongate this too long, found my office space now, and they told me the price. It was out of budget of what I initially wanted, but God was saying, this is your home. So I said, okay, cool, I'll take it. I didn't know I was going to pay the deposit. I didn't know how I was going to pay anything. We had some money saved up from revenue from MCTV, so we used that to pay the initial, but then the deposit, I didn't know where it was going to come from, but business started coming. And then next thing, God was saying, okay, it's time for you to move out of your family home and really live for yourself more than anything. And it was time for you to come up higher in your calling. It's like, cool, still in my overdrafts. We're paying for the office, it's all good, business is coming, but I need to get out of that. And then that's when I went and did NTS. And I'd already done it before, so it was quite easy for me to get onto the program and make quite a lot to get out of my overdraft and just become financially stable again and get to a level place with my finances. So I did that, and now when it was time to move into my apartment, again, I was like, okay, now that means my expenses are going to double or they're going to increase. I was like, how am I going to do this? And something that I found with every level that God has called me to is that, number one, it requires a higher level of faith. And number two, it defies all human logic that says resources first and then you move. In the kingdom, it's the opposite way around.
Do you know what? I feel like you're almost speaking to me, because I feel like I'm almost at that similar crossroad with my own productions and the own things that I wanted to do. Is I always used to say to myself, and this is where I needed to tap into faith a lot more. So I need to have this in place before I can make that step. But then because I kept delaying, and I was like, it needs to be in place before I make that leap. And then 3 months passed, and then 6 months passed, and a year passed, and it's like, oh wait, no progress has been made. And
it keeps you stuck.
Stagnating, innit?
It keeps you stuck. By God's standards, in God's kingdom, you move and then He provides resources. It's kind of like you're like, what can I call it? Something that moves forward in water. Let's say a fish in water. It's not until the fish has to move and then the water around it kind of moves. There's that momentum that creates
the ripple effect.
Yes, there you go. That's when you meet your destiny helpers. That's when you meet people that, you know what, I just like what you do. I want to invest in you. I had a lady that I want to sow a seed just randomly. I didn't put out anything. I just want to sow a seed into you and into what you do. I love what you do. That's when you meet people that you know what, I'm going to connect you with someone that might help you out, and that might be the door to your breakthrough. In God's kingdom, it's faith, move. It's like faith is, evidence, substance of things hoped for, evidence of things unseen. So your faith in action is, I'm going to start moving as though it's already done.
And that confidence and belief that it's already written. It's gonna happen. You know what I mean?
And people have this thing about the universe.
Listen, I don't like all that conversation. Oh yeah.
I used to subscribe to it.
To the universe.
Please. I used to subscribe to it, so I understand why people might buy into that theology, but it's really God. The law of attraction is faith. A lot of things are taken out of context of scripture, and repackaged to sound good to the world.
To the world. Would you ever consider writing, by the way?
Of course.
Simply because, like, obviously, like, I've known you for a while now. I don't like, speak to you as much as I wish I should. But like, even just like reconnecting today and speaking to you, like, you just seem you seem very clued up and very switched on. Like, sometimes I encounter people and I know this person just knows what their purpose is and they know what direction they're heading in. And like, I get that from you just even having this conversation.
It took me a while.
Yeah.
But the beauty of it is when you get there. Whew.
Yeah. It's a different level, isn't
it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Different level.
Yeah. You just free flow from there and everything just begins to fall into. It's amazing. Once you discover your why, everything changes.
I think that should be the key takeaway from this.
And that's why you have people that are billionaires and they've made money, as in serious money. They're in their 40s, their 50s, and they're like, I just don't know what I'm here for.
For me, money's never like, I guess there's a whole other conversation, but it's when people chase money, it's like they're not chasing their purpose. And it's like, I've got this money in my account and I can do whatever I want financially, but there's some days where you just wake up and you lack direction. And like when you lack direction, it almost feels as if your life is going in you don't know where your life is going. You're just living for the sake of living.
And if you don't have that clarity for yourself, you take everything that the world offers you. And not all money is good money. Some contracts are actually a trap.
Yeah. Have you ever been in a situation where you just had to, like, something was presented to you and like, this seems good, but something told you otherwise, like,
I would say that's more so in my personal life.
Yeah.
So in terms of relationships, I desire marriage and I desire to have a good family because of many things, fulfilling purpose and also breaking generational curses. So I want to have something that perhaps I didn't see in my bloodline so that God's name can ultimately be glorified, that it is possible. I have been presented with certain things that look good, but they're not God.
On the surface level, yeah.
And I've made the mistake of taking them, which is why I know good isn't good enough. Because eventually I got burnt. Eventually I got hurt, even though it was packaged in such a way, that this might be something good, but the God factor was missing. And the why factor was missing. See your why again.
Yeah, it comes back in 360.
So even now, the kind of man that I know I want to hand Jesus Christ. The Nigerian H factor. The kind of man I want to end up with, in fact, need to end up with, has to cater to 3 different things about me. He has to cater to the queen in me. He has to cater to the hustler in me, and he has to cater to the woman of God in me. For a while, I thought it was woman of God and hustler. Recently, I discovered queen is important as well. Yeah.
Speak to me about queen.
Queen.
Where did that come from? Esther.
That's one of my favorite characters in the Bible, actually, called for such a time as this. Again, as a result of having a conversation with great friend Nigo, speaking to him about a guy I was having issues with, and he highlighted that, Mo, like, you're taking a lot of rubbish because you don't see yourself as a queen. You see yourself as a woman of God. You see yourself as a hustler. And those are the 2 things I prayed for after having a bad experience with someone who was a good thing but not a God thing. So I said, okay, God.
A good thing, not a God
thing.
Quotables for days,
yeah. So I said, okay, God. Okay, the guy that was a good thing and not a bad thing and not a God thing caters to the hustler in me. And that was why I chose him, because I want a guy that can allow me to shine. But that didn't work out. So I said to God, okay, cool. I want someone that can cater to the things I do, my purpose, and also I want someone that can teach me the word of God. So this guy shows up, and things start happening between us. And I'm not writing him off. Honestly, I'm not writing him off. But I feel like the way I had presented myself, I didn't present the queen, so he couldn't cater to that.
But he didn't see that aspect.
You can have standards, but if you're not honoring them, no one will honor them for you. So he highlighted that to me, that the queen in you is also important aside of the job you do, so your purpose and the things you're doing out there, and if he can support you with that and supporting your Christian walk, that's fantastic. But you also matter how he treats you. Does he take you out? Does he love on you? Does he give you words of affirmation? The love languages that we have. You as in Mo, not Mo Chunks, Mo.
Yeah.
So that's where the queen part came from. So now in my prayers to God, those 3 things
are the key vital things. Amazing. Right, I need to get my phone up because I made sure I made a note of this
Yeah.
because it's almost weird how this conversation is flowing. Everything's
Yeah.
going in like exactly the right trajectory. Right, there was something that you tweeted or
Yeah.
you responded to which links into relationships,
Okay.
and I thought it was a really good like topic of conversation. Obviously, I know we've been speaking for a while,
Yeah.
but so somebody tweeted, "Why does the black community long out the talking stage? This Oyibo babe told me she dated her man for a day and they've been together for 6 years."
Yeah.
So that was the initial tweet, and then
Yeah.
you responded many things. So fear, lack of representation of healthy relationships, shame of failure, good things being unfamiliar, too good to be true, religion, notion of the one, negative mentality, and the need to be stable first, financially or
Yeah.
emotionally. I could go on. I don't even know where to start on that, but I want to start with the notion of the one. And this is where I'm going to bait myself out. Not
Yeah.
baiting myself out, but this is something that I've struggled with because it's like, I don't know why. Maybe it's been because of the things that I've watched as a child, watching Disney, I don't know. The notion of the one has almost been the thing that's getting in the way. And why do you feel like in the black community specifically, because obviously, like as she mentioned, this white girl, she knew the guy for a day and they've been together for 6 years. Why
Yeah.
do you think that whole talking stage or whatever people want to call it? I hate
that
it. Do
phrase
you know what I mean?
so much. Talking stage. What are we talking about? Okay, so I think black people, we take things very seriously, including relationships. Okay, and I think that's as a result of the black experience.
Yeah.
So unfortunately, till today, slavery still has an impact on us. Whether that's been passed down spiritually, physically, I don't know. A lot of us still have that very like, life is harsh mindset. So I have to take everything with a pinch of salt. If you come into my life today, I need to decipher who you actually are for the next 2 years. What is the meaning? If you don't know who somebody is within the first 6 months or even 3, we've heard of stories of people that married within the month.
Yeah, that scares me, man. Impossible.
Once you have a confirmation from God, I believe you're good to go.
Yeah.
And this is why I think my faith is so vital. It defies all human logic. Human logic will say, long it out. Talk to them, find out things, see them in different situations, but we forget that humans evolve. So someone can be good today, but actually terrible tomorrow. And you cannot decipher that. Only God can decipher that.
And they obviously always present their more favourable
Of
side
course.
because if they want to make a good impression.
Of course.
They're not going to like show themselves that
Of
they're
course,
worse. They're going to show themselves.
And
"Today I
sometimes
must-"
God
yeah.
might say, sometimes someone might be showing you their worst traits and God is still saying that's the one. Because he knows how they evolve and what they're going to be in the future, for example, and how they're going to aid your purpose, because your purpose looks different in different seasons as well. And the things that happen to us in life. I know of a woman, the testimony, I don't know where I got it from, but she fell ill later on in her life. And it wasn't until she fell ill that she realized why God said that guy. Because of how he nurtured her and looked after her and cared for her in her season of illness. So we don't know tomorrow. That's why we need to rely on a word from God today, not what we're being presented with today. Because things change, people change, mindsets change, all that.
I think it's always one of those things where people try to do things in their own physical capabilities. And it's like, I was even saying this, I can't remember if it was to Tiana or to Nissi, but like, when humans rely on their own strength, it always fails. It will never, ever work. But it's like, you have to tap into that higher calling because until you do, you will just be walking around willy-nilly and like have no sense of direction. So I feel like we've gone on for time, so I want to wrap it up quickly. So obviously, you've got
Actually, wait, sorry, hold on. I feel like I just reinforced the idea of the one though.
But then again, because like when you do find the one, they are the one. But it's like
they are the one, but that doesn't mean there's just the one.
That's the thing. People are searching for the one, but in their searching, they're almost not helping themselves because
they're
like,
so particular.
I must find that one person that meets every last criteria.
No.
And then I'm also like, but do you fit the criteria of the person that's looking for you? Do you know what I mean? People always focus on what's happening over there, but whereas, is their house clean? Like, are you clean in your house? Do you have everything in check? Do you know what I mean? It takes two to tango. Do you know what I mean? You sip that water. But yeah, it's always a funny one, like the relationship conversation, because like, once again, not to bring it back to Twitter, but there's always like the conversation around dating Christian men and like how, in the Christian realm and like in the church, how it's appropriate to
Approach a woman.
approach a woman, or like sometimes people feel like, oh, because she's a Christian, she must, be a certain type of way, or she can't go to parties, or she can't have fun. And it's like, it's such a weird dynamic, the conversations that always happen, because I don't feel like the experience of dating is the same, even though we're black Nigerian, we go to church. It's like, for some reason, people try to cage it all into one space, and it's like, you must adhere to these certain rules.
Yeah.
And I feel like it's just super frustrating, because it's like, people have in their mind set themselves up to believe that this is the way it must be.
Yeah.
And if it's not that way, then it's not right for me. And I
Yeah.
don't know, man. It's something that we, as young people, as young black people, need to find a way to challenge and to break.
That's why conversations are needed.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
100%. So obviously, we've spoken about you, your journey, and some of the things that you've done in terms of like your production now. You're working for yourself, it's growing. Where is like, what are the next steps? What is it that,
Next
Mo
steps.
Chunks is trying to...
I'm very, very eager to expand my team.
Mm-hmm.
So I have some people that are ready to like come on the journey with me, and I'm ready to offload some of the stuff that's in me and kind of create mini Mo's, like really resilient, excellent people. And that's something I look out for a lot. And I think that's why for a long time I've worked by myself. I pride myself on excellence. So people that work with me must also be excellent, so that it's kind of like the seeds that we've sown so far, so that we can continue to see fruit. So I really, really want to expand my team for MCTV, for Ani Media Productions, so I can spend more time doing the teaching part of purpose. So going out to events and speaking, featuring on shows like this, so that I have a team that I can just step away from the business and it's still running, step away from MCTV and I know my videos are still going up, more than anything.
Sick.
So I can write the books.
Write the books. I'm waiting for it, man.
Yeah.
Wait, there was another thing. That's one thing I knew I had to ask. There's going to be a whole other conversation, but this is the way that I like to operate. Weight loss journey.
Oh, yeah.
Because that has been a key thing with you, and like once again with people that watch you and people who are also going through something similar. Like, for you to put that out there and to be so candid and so open with that whole progress and like transformation, how did you feel in terms of putting it out there and like being confident in your body and like that whole journey and that whole experience?
I think one of the gifts that God has given me is vulnerability. Like, I can be vulnerable about my journey. A lot of people struggle with that. A lot of people will come to me and be like, oh, like, Mo, I would really love to share this online, but I just don't feel comfortable. And it's a gift. It's a grace, should I call it, to be able to cry on camera. It's a grace to allow people to almost see you naked and not even fear if they will still respect you. I think that's the fear a lot of people have. If you see me this way, will you still see me as Mo Chunks? If you see me as Mo in my stripped down form. So that's the first thing. And I think it's, again, to teach people, you have to kind of show them your experience. And people do pander to people that are authentic and people that are truthful. I don't share everything, but I share enough to let you in, that if I can do it, you can too. And that's literally my message. Everything I learn, I'm so eager to pass it on.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Well, I'm waiting for the book.
Yeah.
I'm waiting for the growth.
Amen.
We need to do a podcast as well. There's so many things that, listen, it's been a pleasure just to have you and to reconnect and to have these conversations, man.
Thank you so much.
Because like, it's like, sometimes when I speak with people, I just feel like, I feel motivated once again, and I feel like, okay, cool, like there's certain things that you said that I can now take in my journey, and like, I guess it's one of those things where, like you were saying, this whole media thing doesn't matter if you're not fulfilling your purpose and if you're not touching people with it, and that's kind of one of the things that I want to do with my platform as well. So like, to be able to connect with you and hear how you've gone through certain hardships and you've still come out the other end. It's but like super, super amazing. But thank you for coming today.
Thank you so much.
I appreciate it.
Thank you.
And we'll leave it at that. I'm hungry. I need to get barbecue food as well, man. You can come to the barbecue today.
It's a Luton. It's gonna roll.
Is it Luton?
Yeah.
I'm screaming. I lived in Luton for way too long. Way too long. Thank you. And we
Thank
can
you